part 2 of the Captain America Defenders crossover. This is Defenders 106 by Jim DeMatteis. And what we have so far is that a bunch of the Defenders and Captain America, they have been captured by the terrorist enclave known as the Secret Empire. They all wear gladiator costumes and plan to use weaponized telepaths to start a war with Russia. Doctor Strange, he receives a psychic cry for help, alerting him to the situation going on. I've had to think hard about how to discuss this issue because I have a lot of problems with it, and I mean a lot. Let's start with the big spoiler for a story from nearly 40 years ago. In this issue, Batman dies. The long-time Defenders member, Batman, he dies in this issue. This might be something that I expand on later or define better in future videos. But I was thinking that there are two types of deaths in comics. There are deaths which serve the characters, and then there are deaths which serve the story. The latter are usually the bad ones, and this is one of those. Batman's death is incredibly impersonal. Another textbook example of deaths which serve the story is that they are the ones you can poke the most holes in. When a death serves a character, when they have personal feelings involved or they are driven by emotion, you are given an excuse for why Batman overlooked or maybe didn't realise or didn't care that there were a dozen alternatives to dying. Batman's death in this is so bad that you can take the sequence of events and swap his character out with any other character and it doesn't change anything. And that is another thing I'll get into. Batman's lack of contribution to this issue. Some positives here. It is great to see Satan's Son in the book. Satan's Son would be one of my favourite heroes if he never appeared again after this run was over. We also have Daredevil, and to resolve that mystery from me last video, he was hypnotised to forget that he was there when the Defenders were captured. It's clunky stuff like this which makes me ashamed to read comics. And now we are straight back to how much I think this story is crap. Here is all the backstory. For the time being, let's avoid the overall story and focus on what I consider a failure in execution. This stuff, this subplot that has been building up over time and over different comics, it all began with Batman. Batman and his ex-girlfriend, whose life he fucked up. The way to end this story is to resolve that, or reach some sort of closure with those characters. his ex-girlfriend, she is hardly even in this. There, she is technically there, plugged into the machine. I think you see her face later on somewhere. Up there. I think that's it. That's all you see of her in the issue. Despite all this stuff about the secret umpire wanting to psychically assault Russia, the backbone of this story should be Batman and his broken relationship. It is his fault his ex-girlfriend is even in this situation to begin with. This issue says nothing about that relationship. The issue says nothing about Batman, which is terrible considering it is his big death issue. And he stayed dead for 15 years after it. Good bit here though. We get to see the heroes working together. And at one point I thought that I would get to talk about Daredevil's membership. But there's still about 5 other things to criticise about Batman's death, which is impending. I think one of the biggest insults about this death is how they are very quick to undercut it. At the start of the next issue, at the very start of it, Velcro dies. It is a fake out. She is fine. But it is the case that immediately after Batman dies, Velcro steals his thunder. And they end up having a shared funeral, so no one is really allowed time to mourn for Batman. Velcro is back alive by the end of the issue. Then they do a really nasty bait and switch where they make you think that Batman, he didn't die either. But after 5 issues, it is revealed that, yeah, he did die here. The other thing is that his death is really invalidated. I'll be able to come back to that in a few pages when I get to talk about the actual death itself. But here we have Batman, and he is walking around in a daze. You see, the captive telepaths, which include his ex-girlfriend, but that is never relevant here, they have reached out and taken control of his body. Not total control. He still has some agency, but it really fucking stings that this is his big death. I do like this bit here though, Satan's son down here. So, Batman, augmented by the telepaths, which include his ex-girlfriend, but that is never relevant here. He fights against the secret umpire with their psychic powers, and he is going to shut down this evil plan to put all of Russia into comas. And all you needed was one line of dialogue here where Batman acquiesced to his part in all this and how he is doing this to make up for being a terrible boyfriend or whatever. But all this comes off as impersonal. You see, the leader of the secret umpire, since his plan has failed, he has set the base to self-destruct. Doctor Strange, he teleports away all the defenders to safety. But, you see, Batman, he insists on staying behind to stop the boss man from undoing the self-destruct sequence. And so we have Batman, the psychics, and the boss man. They die in an explosion. In 6 issues' time, we find out that the boss man and the psychics survived. Batman died. Batman died for a stupid reason where he was partially robbed of his own control. And there are so many fucking solutions to this. Why didn't Doctor Strange just teleport the boss man with them so that he couldn't deactivate the self-destruction? Why would he deactivate the self-destruction if he activated it in the first place? Yeah, the heroes got away, but if he can deactivate it, is letting him deactivate it that bad? Batman could just use those psychic powers to shut him down. Batman could just use those powers to deactivate it himself. He uses them to do something similar earlier on in the issue. The whole end point with this explosion, there was not a threat of self-destruction until the last minute when it was time to nonsensically kill off Batman. Batman's death is... I'll be realistic. Batman is not the most major character at Marvel, but he is recognisable and people generally know that he exists. But this is an atrocious death for a moderately familiar character. He didn't gan out heroically. He didn't gan out having resolved any of his issues or any aspect of his character or even any of the stuff that led into this storyline. He just went out stupidly. Another criticism. This is a crossover with Captain America. Part 1 in Captain America, that had a lot of Captain America, but also a lot of Defenders. Part 2 in Defenders here, it has a lot of Defenders, but absolutely no Captain America. I think the overall issue here is terrible. I like how we slowly built to this story, and there are bits in this issue I like, but the main thing is very not good. This really stinks the 7 thumbs up.